Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to be diving deep into the world of renewable energy in India.
This sounds exciting.
Yeah, we'll be dissecting an earnings call transcript from Gensol Engineering Ltd.
Ah, Gensol, interesting.
Yeah, they're really making waves in solar power, electric vehicles, even green hydrogen.
A lot to unpack there.
It is a lot to unpack, but by the end of this deep dive, you'll really understand how this company is navigating, a rapidly changing landscape.
Yeah, earnings calls, they're like treasure maps for investors.
Yeah.
They reveal so much more than just the numbers.
Oh, absolutely.
You get a glimpse into their strategic thinking, the challenges they're facing, and their outlook on the future.
That's what makes them so fascinating.
Well, exactly.
Okay, so let's set the stage here. What's the big picture when it comes to renewable energy in India?
Well, India is making incredible progress in renewable energy.
We know it's booming, but just give us some context.
Yeah, so they've already surpassed 100 gigawatts of installed solar capacity,
Wow,
which is more than double what it was just 5 years ago.
that's huge.
It is. And it's not just solar. The government is really pushing for electric vehicle adoption, promoting green hydrogen. They're investing heavily in grid infrastructure.
So they're going all in.
Oh, yeah. They want to be a global leader in this space.
That's ambitious.
It is.
So Gensol is riding this wave of growth, but they're not exactly a household name just yet. What's their story?
Well, Gensol started out in solar energy, specifically in the EPC side of things, engineering, procurement, and construction.
Okay.
They built a solid reputation there, and now they're strategically expanding into new sectors like green hydrogen, battery storage systems, and even EVs.
Smart move, capitalizing on those trends.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's break it down starting with their bread and butter,
Yeah.
solar ETC. What did we learn about that part of the business from this earnings call?
Their solar EPC business is thriving.
Good to hear.
Yeah, they secured some major projects in the third quarter, including 2 massive solar parks in Khavda, Gujarat.
Oh, wow, I read about those.
Yeah, worth over INR 2,000 crore combined.
That's impressive.
It is. Then there's the nearly INR 900 crore project they secured from NTPC, also in Gujarat.
Okay.
As of December, their solar EPC order book stands at a whopping INR 7,000 crore.
So they're not slowing down?
Nope. To put that into perspective, that's more than double their revenue for the entire last year.
Those are some serious numbers. It sounds like they have a lot of momentum. But they did mention some challenges, right?
Right, even with a booming sector, there are always bumps in the road.
Sure.
One of the challenges they mentioned was extended rainfall in certain regions.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, this impacted project execution during the third quarter, pushing back timelines and ultimately affecting their revenue.
Makes sense. So even a renewable energy company can't escape the whims of Mother Nature.
Sadly, no weather can be unpredictable, and it really highlights the importance of contingency planning.
For sure. Another hurdle they mentioned was land acquisition, right?
Yes, they face delays in getting land from customers for some of their turnkey projects.
Speaking of turnkey projects, can you quickly explain what that means?
Sure.
How's that different from what they call balance of system projects?
Okay, so in turnkey projects, Gensol takes care of everything from A to Z, securing the land, getting permits, engineering, construction, the whole shebang.
They handle it all.
Exactly. These projects are typically higher margin because they have a wider scope, but sometimes they run into delays, especially with land acquisition.
And that's where balance of system, or BOBO, comes in.
Exactly. In Bobo's projects, Gensol focuses on a specific part of the solar power system, like providing and installing the mounting structures, inverters, and wiring.
So more specialized.
Yeah, they don't handle the entire project, so the margins are generally lower.
Got it.
Right.
So the land acquisition delays forced them to focus more on these lower margin BOBO projects,
Right.
which ultimately impacted their profitability.
Yeah, that's right. And it explains why they fell short of their initial revenue guidance of INR 2,000 crore for the year.
It's a domino effect.
It is. But it's important to remember that 80% of their INR 7,000 crore solar EPC order book is made up of turnkey projects.
Oh, okay, so things are looking up.
Yeah, they're expecting a strong rebound in profitability as those projects get underway.
That makes sense. So despite some hiccups, the solar EPC business seems to be in a good place. What about their newer ventures, especially electric vehicles? They made some big announcements in this earnings call, right?
They did. They've been steadily building their EV leasing business, and they've already hit a big milestone. INR 850 crore in assets under management by December 2024.
Wow, so they're leasing out EVs to companies and individuals. What's the strategy there?
It's a smart move, considering the rising demand for EVs in India, but it is capital intensive. They actually made a strategic move to lighten that load. They partnered with Reflex Green Mobility, transferring nearly 3,000 of their EVs and a loan obligation of INR 315 crore over to Reflex.
Okay, so they're essentially offloading some of their EVs in debt to Reflex. But why? What's the benefit for Gensol?
This deal does two key things.
Yeah.
First, it significantly reduces their debt, which was a concern for some investors.
Makes sense.
And second, it allows them to free up capital and resources to focus on other areas of growth, like their brand new EV manufacturing arm.
Ah, that brings us to their big reveal at the Farad Mobility Global Expo. They unveiled 2 new EV models, right?
He did. They stole the show with the launch of their Ezio and Ezobot models.
I saw the pictures. They look pretty sleek.
Yeah, the Ezio is designed for urban mobility, while the Ezobot is a cargo variant targeting that last-mile delivery market.
Makes sense. And they've already secured pre-orders.
They have a staggering 30,000 pre-orders for these vehicles, even before production begins.
Wow, 30,000 pre-orders before production even starts. That's incredible. It sounds like they've really tapped into a demand sweet spot. But some investors expressed concerns about the production timeline, right?
Yes, some investors questioned when the Ezio would actually hit the roads.
Understandably.
Gensol clarified that base testing is complete and advanced testing is underway. They're aiming to start production in the next fiscal year,
Okay.
but they're taking a slow and steady approach, focusing on quality and a controlled ramp-up.
So they're not rushing things.
Nope. It's a strategic decision. Remember, Gensol is a first-time OEM, meaning they're new to the manufacturing game.
Right.
They want to avoid the pitfalls of rushing into mass production. They're prioritizing quality control, ironing out any kinks in the process, and gathering customer feedback before they scale up.
That's a refreshing perspective. It's not just about chasing numbers. It's about building a sustainable business for the long haul.
Exactly.
But it does raise another question. If they're taking a slow and steady approach to production, how will they meet that huge pre-order demand?
That's a valid question and one that we'll definitely delve into further.
Okay.
However, before we get to that, there's another crucial aspect of the earnings call we need to dissect. Gensol's financial health.
Ah, yes, the numbers.
Investors had a lot of questions about their cash flow, debt, and something called promoter pledges.
Okay. Let's unpack that because I think a lot of people, myself included, might not be entirely familiar with those terms.
You're absolutely right, and it's crucial to understand these aspects to get a clearer picture of Gensol's overall financial stability. We'll break it all down in the next part of our deep dive.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to it. All right, so we're back and ready to dig into, the nitty-gritty of Gensol's financials. Before the break, you mentioned promoter pledges.
Right.
What are those, and why should we care about them?
Okay, so it's a little bit of a technical term, but definitely important to understand.
Right.
Basically, a promoter pledge is when a company's founders or major shareholders use their shares as collateral to secure loans.
Okay.
It's actually quite common in India,
Interesting.
but it can be a bit risky for investors.
Risky, how so?
Well, if the company's share price drops significantly, lenders can sell those pledged shares to, recoup their money.
Makes sense.
And this can actually lead to further decline in share value and could even impact the company's control.
So investors get nervous?
They do. High promoter pledges can be a sign of financial distress.
Got it. So what's the situation with Gensol? Did they talk about their promoter pledges during the call?
They did, and they were pretty transparent about it.
Good.
They acknowledged that they do have a significant amount of promoter pledges, which is largely because of the debt they took on for their EV leasing business.
Right.
But they also highlighted that the deal with Reflex, where they transferred those EV assets and the associated debt,
Right.
that's going to release about INR 300 crore worth of pledged shares.
Okay, so that Reflex deal wasn't just about, getting rid of assets and debt. It was also about reducing those promoter pledges, trying to ease investor concerns. But is that enough? What else are they doing to, improve their financial health?
Well, they really emphasize their commitment to further deleveraging both organically and through more strategic asset sales.
Okay.
They have a decent cash balance right now of about INR 250 crore and access to working capital limits of about INR 350 to 400 crore. Yeah, and they're confident that as they sell more EVs, especially once Ezio production starts rolling, they'll be able to naturally, reduce their debt and bring down those promoter pledges.
So it's a multi-pronged approach. They're tackling the debt from different angles.
Exactly.
Okay. But switching gears a bit, I was curious about something they emphasize with the Ezio passenger comfort.
Right.
What's the thinking there? Is that really a key selling point for an EV?
It's actually a really smart strategy, especially when you consider their target market.
Sure.
They're not primarily aiming for individual car buyers. They're going after those ride-hailing platforms like BlueSmart.
Makes sense.
And for those platforms, passenger comfort is huge. It directly impacts customer satisfaction and their bottom line.
Yeah, a comfortable ride can be a big differentiator in a crowded market, especially for those services.
Yeah.
But I thought some investors were concerned that Gensol was relying too heavily on BlueSmart for orders.
Yeah, some analysts did bring that up during the Q&A. But Gensol clarified that they're not solely dependent on BlueSmart. They have a diverse order book for their EVs, including pre-orders from other fleet operators and even some interest from individual buyers.
So they're diversifying their customer base.
Yes, which is always a good sign.
It is. I'm still a bit curious, though, about that slow production ramp up.
Right.
If they have all these pre-orders, wouldn't it be smarter to scale up production more quickly and get those EVs out there?
Well, it is tempting to think that way, but you have to remember they are a first-time OEM.
Right, right.
They're putting a lot of emphasis on quality control, and that gradual ramp-up lets them fine-tune their production process, iron out any kinks, and make sure the EVs they deliver meet their standards.
So there's a more sustainable approach, even if it means a slightly slower start.
Exactly.
It's a trade-off, for sure.
Yeah.
But I guess it also sends a message to customers that they're not just rushing things to meet demand.
It does.
They're prioritizing quality and building a brand that's, synonymous with reliability. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah.
From their solar EPC success story to their, ambitious jump into EV manufacturing and leasing,
Yeah.
and even the finer points of their financial situation.
Yeah.
What's your overall impression of Gensol after, breaking down this earnings call?
I'm cautiously optimistic. They're operating in a high-growth sector. They've got a strong track record in solar EPC.
Right.
And they're making bold moves in the EV space.
Yeah.
They're addressing their financial challenges head-on, and their focus on quality and sustainable growth is encouraging.
I agree.
But it's still early days for their EV ventures, and their success really hinges on a few things, execution, market adoption, and their ability to navigate a rapidly changing landscape.
It's definitely a story to watch.
It is.
And that's the beauty of these deep dives, isn't it?
Yeah.
We get to peel back the layers, understand the complexities, and, form our own informed opinions. Now, before we wrap up, I want to touch on one more thing that stood out to me in this earnings call, their long-term vision.
Mm-hmm.
What did they say about where they see themselves in the future?
That's a great point. And it's actually something we'll be exploring in more detail in the final part of our deep dive.
Okay.
They have a very clear vision for how their different business segments will not just coexist, but really complement and strengthen each other. It's all about creating a synergistic ecosystem for a sustainable future.
Sounds intriguing.
It is.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've spent the last two segments really getting into the details of Gensol Engineering Ltd's earnings call. We talked about their solar business, their big push into EVs, and even got into some complex financials.
Yeah, we've seen their successes, the hurdles they're facing, and how they're strategically positioning themselves, for what's coming next.
Exactly. And before the break, we were talking about, their long-term vision. It's one thing to have different business segments, but it's another thing entirely to have them all working together, towards a common goal.
Yeah.
What did Gensol say about how they see these different pieces fitting together?
Their vision is really to create like a complete ecosystem for sustainable transportation and energy.
Okay.
They see their solar EPC business as that foundation, providing clean energy to power not just homes and businesses, but also their EV fleet.
So the solar powers, the EVs they make and lease out. That's a pretty cool connection.
Yeah.
But how does that translate into a competitive advantage? Are they really the only ones doing this?
Other companies might be working in one or two of these areas, but Gensol's strength is in their integrated approach.
Okay.
By controlling that whole value chain from solar power generation to EV manufacturing and leasing, they can optimize each stage, for maximum efficiency and sustainability.
It's like they're creating this closed loop where everything feeds back into itself. But let's get practical here. How does this actually benefit their customers?
We'll take their EV leasing business, for example. By offering solar-powered charging along with their EVs, they can give customers a truly, green transportation option. And this is really appealing to companies and individuals who want to reduce their carbon footprint.
Right, so it's not just about selling the EVs, it's about offering a complete package.
Exactly, a package that addresses both transportation needs and environmental concerns.
It's pretty compelling. And their EV manufacturing benefits too, right?
Absolutely. By having that ready-made market for their EVs through their own leasing business, they can guarantee a certain amount of demand even as they slowly ramp up production.
It's a win-win. They control their production pace, maintain quality, and still have a customer base ready to go. It's smart, especially for a first-time OEM.
It is. And as they grow their manufacturing capacity, they can use their solar expertise to offer solar-powered charging infrastructure to other businesses, even cities looking to go electric.
So they're not just playing in their own little world. They're positioning themselves to be a major player in this whole electrification movement.
Exactly. They see the potential for their solar and EV expertise to come together to create new opportunities that wouldn't exist if they just stayed in their separate lanes.
That's a bold vision, that's for
Mm.
sure. But as with any big plan, there are going to be challenges.
Mm.
What are some of the hurdles they might face in making this vision a reality?
One of the biggest challenges is going to be scaling up their EV manufacturing while keeping that focus on quality and customer satisfaction.
Right.
They're being cautious, which is good, but they'll need to find that balance between speed and, making sure everything is done right as they increase production to meet that pre-order demand.
The balancing act. If they're too slow, they risk losing momentum.
Ah,
But if they go too fast, they could compromise on quality.
exactly. Another challenge is going to be navigating the policy landscape.
Ah, yes.
Government support is critical for their success, but policies can change, incentives can shift, and new regulations can pop up.
So they need to be adaptable.
They do. They need to be able to adjust to those changes while staying focused on their long-term goals.
And of course, they need to manage their finances carefully.
Right, making sure they have the capital to grow while also reducing that debt and those promoter pledges that are making some investors nervous.
It's a lot to juggle. But their success really depends on their ability to execute on all of these things at the same time.
This is where having strong leadership and a clear strategy is critical.
For sure.
They need to make smart decisions, use their resources effectively, and encourage a culture of innovation to thrive in this market.
It's a high-stakes game, but it could have huge rewards.
Yeah.
Not just for Gensol, but for India's clean energy future and the global effort to fight climate change.
And that brings us back to the bigger picture. Gensol's journey, while unique in many ways, is also representative of this global shift towards sustainable energy and transportation.
It shows that innovation and sustainability can work together, and it's a story that's still unfolding. We'll definitely be following along to see how Gensol handles the challenges and opportunities ahead and how their vision shapes the future of renewable energy and e-mobility in India and beyond.
I'm excited to see what they do next.
Me too. Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive full of insights and, thought-provoking questions. What's the one key takeaway you want our listeners to walk away with today?
I want them to remember that the transition to a sustainable future is happening right now. Companies like Gensol are leading the way, proving that it's possible to build successful businesses while also, helping to create a cleaner, greener world.
Well said. And I would add that while there will be bumps in the road, challenges, and tough choices, the journey towards a more sustainable future is absolutely worth it. It's a journey full of innovation opportunity and the potential to, make the world a better place for everyone.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And that's a wrap on our deep dive into Gensol Engineering Ltd. We hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, keep exploring.